The Revolution, embodied in the coronation of William and Mary, laid the foundation for the financial and political innovations which propelled Britain to the apex of global power. The 18th century would be Britain's century. In just a few decades, she would go from a second-rate power to the mistress of the seas and the arbiter of Europe. You can see it all depicted here. This is the painted hall of the Royal Naval College at Greenwich. It's the centrepiece of the whole composition, and it's so called because it's been the subject of a magnificent decorative scheme by the great painter Sir James Thornhill. The scheme's very complicated. Thornhill actually writes an explanation of it all, but it can be summarised really quite quickly. What Thornhill did was to illustrate on an extraordinary scale the coronation sermon for William and Mary. In that sermon, he said, "We in Britain are in a uniquely fortunate middle position. We are men of reason, governed as free people, and at a midway point between the tyranny of despotic power on the one hand and the ungoverned multitudes, the wildness of the ungoverned multitudes." In other words, not Louis XIV, not Oliver Cromwell. And up there, you see him translating that into this extraordinary swirling composition. In the middle, we've got William and Mary. They're actually wearing the same things that we will see at the coronation of Charles and Camilla. He has got the St. Edward crown, then newly made for the coronation of Charles II. She is carrying the consort sceptre, the ivory rod that will actually be borne by Camilla at her coronation. And all around are the rational virtues. Not simply rational, but the actual underpinnings of the new British power that's created by the settlement between the Crown and Parliament of the Glorious Revolution. Let's swing away from the royal bit and look at what also catches your eye, which is the image there, the great warship with the red ensign at its bottom. That is HMS Blenheim. It's named after the great victory of Marlborough under Louis XIV in 1705 that changes the balance of European power forever. But all around, you have symbols of reason, the things that enable this to happen. You've got Galileo there with his telescope. You've got over in that corner the symbol of astronomy with the astrolabe. And then in the middle, you've got economic power. You've got the City of London. These are all as allegorical figures. You've got the River Thames. You've got the River Isis representing Oxford and Reason. I'm afraid they couldn't find room for Cambridge. And then down here, you've got Old Father Tyne bringing this coal to London. He's already powering this new age of the financial industrial complex that will conquer the world. It was an age of innovation in the economy, science, and above all in politics, with Parliament steadily becoming more powerful. In the Act of Settlement of 1701, it even appropriated for itself the right to change the royal dynasty. In short, Parliament was behaving more and more like the Senate of the ancient Roman Republic, and the English elite, educated in the classics, started to present themselves as Roman senators also. Queen Anne, the last Protestant Stuart of the direct line, died on the 1st of August, 1714. The heir, the Protestant heir, of course, under the Act of Settlement, was Georg Ludwig, the Elector of Hanover. He took his time to get here and didn't land at Greenwich until 6 weeks later, on the 18th of September. It's an autumn evening. It's 6 o'clock. He's plainly dressed. He walks through these great courts and colonnades and stays overnight in the Queen's house. And the following morning, he receives chief ministers who are Tory. He doesn't much like Tories. Now, what do you do with this scene when you're a history painter commissioned to make a grand event of this rather modest little arrival? Well, what you do with it is this. You turn it into a scene from a Roman triumph, a Roman Republican triumph, and you represent it as though it was carved in stone. It's called grisaille. So here we've got George arriving. You can tell he's George. He's still got the 18th century wig on, and he's in the shell chariot drawn by horses. And here on the far right, well, there is a sort of English figure. It's good old St. George, but he's represented as a Roman centurion. And then everybody around the king is, well, a republican virtue. You have justice. You can see her there with the scale pan. You have happiness there. She's undressed and clearly rather a loose girl. You've got peace with her olive branch. You've got fame with the trumpet. You've got eternity. This is Christian, but it's represented as a Roman abstraction with the celestial crown. And then the key figures in front are, there you've got it, liberty with the centurion's helmet on, carrying a republican cap, and next to her, religion, but as a Roman priestess. What is this? Well, it's Britain as a crowned republic. It's Britain with a monarchy that is actively contemptuous of miraculous religion. We're about as far away from the world of Richard II as we could possibly be. This is a monarchy that hardly needs coronation, that despises ritual, that wants something different, republican. The first Hanoverian monarchs were foreigners to England, and George I didn't even speak English. They weren't ciphers, but the political initiative increasingly fell to their ministers. The arts, on the other hand, and music in particular, were areas where they could lead public taste, especially at a coronation. The figure behind me, in full armour, carrying the Field Marshal's baton, is George II. He succeeds to the throne in 1727. He's a fine general. Indeed, he's the last English king to fight in battle personally. When he succeeds, he does something else. The coronation continues to be demystified, to be rather a shambolic, aristocratic ceremony. But George, indeed, like his father, it's about the only thing that he's like his father in, loves music. And he loves Handel, the fellow German, Georg Friedrich Handel. And Handel composes for that coronation of 1727 the most magnificent of coronation music. And the forthcoming coronation, we will hear at its most sacred moment, the moment of anointing, Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anointed Solomon king.